We drive through endless forests and grassy steppes. The crystal-clear Nahual Huapi Lake stretches for 130 kilometers along the Argentine-Chilean border. Near the holiday resort of Bariloche, we see fly fishermen standing in the river Limay. Daniel Aguilla is catching trout by imitating the flight of a fly with his fishing rod.
I come here to the river every day after work. I'm a postman in Bariloche. Today I've been fishing for a while, but I haven't caught anything. But it's fun anyway, even more so if you catch something. So I'm out in the fresh air, meet my friends, drink mate tea, and then I go back home again.
Can you show us your flies, the nicest ones you have?
The nicest? I'll show you the flies that we use here. Could you hold this for a second? So, for example, this is a replica of a mouse that the large trout eats sometimes. And then, I don't know if it's nice, but it is good for angling. That's a nice small fly with a piece of bronze in front, so that it sinks quickly, because the trout in this river particularly like to eat flies.
Are some of them homemade?
They're all homemade. This one too, do you see?
We would have liked to eat some fresh trout, but we must carry on. It is still 3,000 kilometers to the end of the world, and in 2 weeks our plane goes back to Germany. We drive to Esquel in the Patagonian interior. We want to meet a real Argentinian gaucho. Payador, the sheepdog, has to watch over 400 feisty sheep. Sheep are bred in southern Argentina, mainly merinos. They can cope well with the raw climate. A constant wind is blowing. It's rather dry and it can be very cold. Patagonia is sparsely populated. There's an average of just 2 inhabitants per square kilometer, but there are millions of sheep. Merinos are bred for their fine wool, which has good insulating qualities. The rams are kept separate from the ewes, or the herd would be uncontrollable, says Miguel. The rams only cause chaos when the mothers are there. Well, they would, wouldn't they? Now and then there are casualties, such as today.
This sheep was attacked by a zorro, a fox, at dawn or overnight. That's where the wound on the neck is from. The zorro often only licks the blood and leaves it lying, and then we have to kill it. I'll take the sheep to the farm, skin it, and give the meat to the dogs. I'll have to show the owner the pelt so he knows that the sheep was killed by a zorro.
Miguel Marin was a soldier for a long time. He comes from an old gaucho family and has returned to his roots. His horse Topiano is an Argentinian Criollo, one of the world's toughest horse breeds.
I have a very close connection with my horse. A horse is a man's best friend. I treat him very well. I broke him in myself. In the mornings, I whistle for Topiano, and he comes to eat grass from my hand. After that, we start our day together.
We say goodbye to Miguel Marin and continue our travels through lonely Patagonia. The Argentine part alone is twice the size of Germany, but has only as many inhabitants as Cologne. We drive for days without meeting a soul. Guanacos. We make a short detour back to Chile, to Patagonia's most famous national park, Torres del Paine. Guanacos are the wild ancestors of llamas and alpacas. They're always watchful as there are pumas living in the national park. There's one, a puma out hunting. But he disappears as quickly as he appeared. It's April, autumn in the southern hemisphere. Clouds obscure the view of the summit of the nearly 3,000-meter granite towers of the national park. The giants gave the park its name, the Blue Towers. We've hired a boat to go and see the glaciers. They're 350 kilometers long in total. We're approaching the South Patagonian ice field. We have to be careful.
It's dangerous to get too close to the glaciers in the boat because of the ice breaking up. It gets you suddenly. It doesn't announce itself.
Captain Arturo Almonacid and Freddy Barrientos, the park ranger, are guiding us. In summer, they ferry around tourists and scientists. The South Patagonian ice field is the largest freshwater reservoir in South America, a relic of the Ice Age 14,000 years ago. Since then, the ice has been steadily retreating. As a result of global warming, the glaciers are melting faster.
I'm the park ranger, and I've been working here for over 20 years. I've been able to watch how these glaciers have been retreating. In the last decade, it was a lot, over 50 meters a year.
We have to continue as winter is approaching. Now we're only 1,000 kilometers away from our destination. We want to get to Tierra del Fuego and need to cross the Straits of Magellan by ferry. The straits at the end of the world separate Patagonia from Tierra del Fuego. The straits are 570 kilometers long and are used by freighters as a passage between the Pacific and the Atlantic. It saves the boats having to go around the treacherous Cape Horn. Our ferry takes 2.5 hours to cover the 32 kilometers between South Patagonia and Tierra del Fuego. The sea is choppy, the wind is howling, and the constant rocking of the ship makes us seasick. Then finally, Tierra del Fuego. We have driven on the Panamericana for 34,500 kilometers. Now it's just a stone's throw to the end of the world as accessible by car. Our destination is the southernmost town in the Americas, Ushuaia. Tesla has survived a malaria infection. We weren't jailed in Nicaragua. We weren't kidnapped or robbed. A positive outcome. So we can be a bit jolly. Ushuaia, 70,000 inhabitants live in this last haven before the Antarctic. The town is the start or the destination of all travelers on the Panamericana. Now that we are so close to the Antarctic, we finally want to see some penguins.
There's some penguins over there. The ones that fly, these are not penguins, of course.
Andrea is a zoologist and has specialized in gentoo penguins. She's been studying the Martillo Island breeding colony for 4 years. Magellanic penguins also breed here, but they all migrate to the warmer north in April when winter comes. Andrea thinks that this young penguin was too weak to travel with the group. Gentoo penguins are on Martillo all year round. They're adapted to extreme cold and also live in the Antarctic. The juveniles are practicing their nest-building skills with sticks and gravel. They care about nothing but gravel. Where to obtain it, if not by stealing? Male penguins bring presents to their partners and cart along anything that might fit the nest. The juveniles are practicing breeding for next year.
The Gentoo penguins are very active and colourful. I like these sub-Antarctic penguins very much because they, in contrast with the Antarctic penguins, have lots of little white spots on their head. They are very shy, not so curious as other species, at least not on this island. And they run in such a funny way.
Whilst the adults are in the water, the juveniles steal material from their nests. Gravel and sticks constantly change owners. We are at the end of our journey. We were on the road for 7 months and 35,000 kilometers. We drove through 15 countries, nearly every climatic zone, and through spectacular landscapes. We were all agreed on one thing. What we enjoyed most were the encounters with the hospitable people who showed us their America. We drive through endless forests and grassy steppes. The crystal clear Nahual Huapi Lake stretches for 130.
I come here to the river every day after work. I'm a postman in Bariloche. Today I've been fishing for a while, but I haven't caught anything. But it's fun anyway, even more so if you catch something. So I'm out in the fresh air, meet my friends, drink mate tea, and then I go back home again.
Can you show us your flies, the nicest ones you have?
The nicest? I'll show you the flies that we use here. Could you hold this for a second? So, for example, this is a replica of a mouse that the large trout eats sometimes. And then, I don't know if it's nice, but it is good for
kilometers along the Argentine-Chilean border. Near the holiday resort of Bariloche, we see fly fishermen standing in the river Limay. Daniel Aguilla is catching trout by imitating the flight of a fly with his fishing rod.
Angling.
Por ejemplo, no sé si son lindas, son efectivas a la hora de pescar.
That's a nice small fly with a piece of bronze in front, so that it sinks quickly, because the trout in this river particularly like to eat flies.